like Samara. Again, I can't Ringu going on here. I was a fool. A fool to have returned home that day. Perhaps somewhere in my heart I had hoped the red illusion would not return. How ridiculous. The story Mother told was unbelievable. From the fire of collapse to the mist killings and Grandpa's death, it all seemed unreal. The red illusion, that had been what she'd called it. It all made sense now. Why Mother never kissed us goodnight, why she never wiped our tears away, and why she never held us, no matter how much we longed for her touch. It wasn't because she didn't want to do those things. It was never her wish to deprive us of the physical affection and intimacy we craved so much from her. Now you know, Triss, it's because I'm a psycho murder lady, and if I touch you, I'll want to gut you like a fish. Now you know what a monster your mother truly is. You're not a monster. I wanted to shout that out with all my soul. It's not your fault. Anyone would break if placed in such a cruel situation. And yet you suffered silently for so long. Your father's right. Someone like me isn't human. Why? It hurt. It hurt to hear her deny and demonize herself. Why does she have to suffer like this? Hasn't she been through enough already? Unable to express the feelings bubbling up inside me, I take her hand and press it against my cheek. I let my hot tears brush against her skin. Triss. Her fingers trace along the path my tears leave behind. They correspond? To me, your clear eye was the only absolutely beautiful thing. I wanted to fill it with color and ducks? Color and ducks. Innocent things like that. Ducks aren't innocent. More than anything, I didn't want to show you this side of me. Yeah, I can assume most mothers don't want their children to see the psycho murder side of them. I didn't want to see you make such a face. But in the end, I tried to kill you. Haha, whoops. You should hate me. I shake my head against her hand. You know, again, it's really shocking to me that everybody who has been killed by her has been, or even, who has been killed or she has attempted to kill, has been totally cool with it. No, you've lived a hard, stressful life, I understand. I'd want to kill me too. Furiously, as if to reject the mere notion. I love you, Mom. I love you more than anything in the world. You struggled against it. You tried to fight it. And when you lost, you Zetsuboed. You're not a monster. You're human. An obsession that neared desperation. More than anything, I wanted my thoughts to reach her, but it was useless. No matter how much I wanted to, I couldn't make my heart known to her. All I could do was tremble pathetically in her arms. In this deep, dark well. Don't be naive, Triss. I know exactly what you're thinking. I'm your mother, after all. Crying for another's sake, even when you're hurting so much yourself. You really are just like her. I couldn't see what kind of expression Mother had as she whispered to me. Colorless. Meaningless. Even though I had no right to live, I clung to life for all this time. A dark ceiling without a star. You were the light that allowed me to make it this far. I love you, Triss. Thank you for being born. You're welcome, I guess. Burying her face in my hair, Mother kisses me deeply. The rivulets running down my face become rivers. They break and submerge me. Okay. Okay, then. Dawn is breaking. The two of us watch on as the hole of light above us begins to brighten. It felt liberating, but at the same time it felt suffocating. Triss. Mother's hand leaves mine. An aching longing wells up within me in the absence of her fleeting warmth. Listen carefully to me, Triss. I'm going to die soon. For a moment her words don't register in my mind, and, they're having difficulty registering my mind too. But holy crap. What in the world? But when they do, I pull away from her. My body trembles. I was afraid. Afraid to look behind me. Afraid of what I might see. Triss. Blood was trailing from her mouth even as she spoke. In the light I realized, the darkness staining the well, was red. I am going to die. But you cannot die here, Triss. You must survive. Mother retrieves something from her pocket. A blue handkerchief. as blue as the boundless sky. Using her blood as ink, she scrawls a message onto the cloth. Then she secures it to her knife. Triss, it's quite misty in here, isn't it? At first I couldn't understand what she meant, but when I blink, the world changes. The prismatic mist. At some point, it had engulfed the entirety of the well. Ah. Mother's body shifts within the mist. The sound of creaking, no, cracking, like wood bending and snapping. Was she trying to get up? No, stop. I try to reach out, but stay back. The strength in her voice overpowers me. It roots me to my feet. Ha, ha, mung. It shouldn't have been possible after falling from such a height. She was just too strong. But there was no doubt. Mother was standing. Right before me, she was standing. Triss. Mother extends her hand toward the circle of light overhead. Do you remember? When your father was paving the walkway in front of our house, you and Kalia walked through the fresh cement? I didn't know what she was trying to say, but the resolve and desperation in her voice was unmistakable. I had to listen carefully. What she was saying was important. You and Kalia walked through the fresh cement. At first your father was very troubled, and the two of you started to cry. But then he smiled and said it was okay. Do you remember what he did? Yes. He filled our footprints with the colorful clay and etched our names alongside them. Then he laughed and called it a happy accident. Picture it, Triss. Facing the circle of light overhead, Mother draws the knife back, as if to split the very mist before her. Close your eyes. Guided by her voice, I let myself sink into darkness. Come now. Try to imagine. The yard in front of our house. The grass that you and Kalia play in so often. If it is wet with morning dew. The birds are chirping. In the distance, the sun is rising. Try to imagine it. You are standing right there. And again, we're looking into the sun. Everybody put on your sunglasses. Don't want anybody to go blind staring at an eclipse now. A vision of our home spreads out before me. It was vivid beyond belief. Yeah, it's very vivid. I can hear the birds chirping, the wind on my skin, and the sunrise. It was beautiful. Picture it. Where those footprints lead. What lies at the end of the path? A crystal clear truth. A reality dictated and woven by her hands. It paints over the canvas of the world, overwriting the laws of the universe. Now, look up. At that moment, something flashes through the air. Time slows to a crawl as it passes before my eyes. Frog in the well. It was a frog. A knife. Never mind. It wasn't a frog, it was a knife. A knife with a blue handkerchief bound to it. It splits open the sky and shatters the vision before me. I forced my eyes open. The mist was gone. The only thing that remained was Mother's figure, her right hand stretched out before her, as if reaching for the distant sky. The knife in her hand was gone. I see. So that's what it looks like. The boundless blue sky. Thank you, Triss. Thank you for showing me a world full of color. It happens as if in slow motion. Slowly her body tilts, and she falls. With that sound effect. Mom! I rush by her side. Well. Triss. They should come now. When you hear them, pound on the walls. Kick at the water. Struggle. With everything you have. I'm sorry that this is all I can do for you. No. I'm sorry. The light was fading from her eyes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Regret that rang out like a prayer. I'm sorry. Her chapped lips repeating one thing. I'm sorry, everyone. Mallory, Elouette, Father, Autun, Kalia, and Triss. No, no, no. I'm sorry you had such a monster for a mother. With those final words, Mother's eyes fall shut. It was deafening. This tiny world where her breaths were no more. Cursing herself, rejecting herself. Even as she lay dying, she had carried the burden to the very end. Again, she murdered so many people. As if being forsaken by the world wasn't enough. As if dying in this cold, dark well was not enough. It was too cruel. Why? Why am I so powerless? I couldn't save her. No. You're the reason she's dead. If only I hadn't chased her. If only I hadn't pushed her into a corner. Maybe then she'd still be alive. Yeah, and she'd also have a much higher kill count. It's all your fault. Lifting my arm feebly, I reach out for her. The silence that gripped the air was broken by a faint buzzing as my hand overlapped hers. It was then that I noticed. Glowing splashes of vivid red were staining my arms from the elbow up. That dripping red was burning into the pale white hand I held. That detestable red was spreading, blossoming out from underneath her. What the hell? He going crazy too. I see. I shut my eyes as it crawls up the walls, engulfing everything in sight. So this is the red illusion. Even with my eyes closed, I could still see it. Her lifeless body, draped in dripping red. Oh my god, a change in scenery. There once was a village in a faraway land. A bedtime story we had heard many times already. One we never grew tired of. Once again, Mother was telling it to us. One day the air of the land turned cold. Winter, a time of scarcity in which the sky and earth slumbered. Having never experienced winter's chill before, the villagers did not know what to do, and so they decided to send a messenger to the heavens to ask for guidance. The rainbow crow, a bird with big, beautiful feathers that shone like prisms, offered to make the long journey. It braved the cold, harsh winds of winter until it reached the heavens, where it was rewarded with the gift of fire. But when it returned to the village with the gift, it was no longer the same. The fire had scorched its beautiful feathers away so that it could no longer fly, and the smoke had stripped it of its voice. The rainbow crow was no longer beautiful and could no longer sing, but the people did not care. They honored the rainbow crow's noble sacrifice, for the fire it brought home allowed them to weather the cold winter. The rainbow crow lived the rest of its life out happily, surrounded by the laughter and smiles of the villagers it had saved. No matter how many times I heard it, I loved the story. A bird with rainbow feathers. That would look really pretty, right, Mommy? I suppose. Oh yeah, Mommy, I heard that's not the real ending, that there's more to the story. You know what happens, right, Mommy? Tell us, tell us. I also wanted to hear. I see. You want to hear the true story. Yeah, I want to hear about the rainbow crow. I nod energetically alongside Kalia. Very well. Mother seemed conflicted, but eventually she acquiesces. The truth is, the rainbow crow had a child with beautiful rainbow feathers and a lovely singing voice, just like the rainbow crow once had. However, when the young rainbow crow was but a chick, a villager dropped it by accident. Oops. The young rainbow crow became terrified of human beings and could not live in the village. Instead, it lived alone in a nearby forest. While unable to join in itself, the rainbow crow would often visit to listen to its child's innocent song. So even though the young rainbow crow became lonely at times, it was still happy. One day, a poor abandoned child wandered into the depths of the forest and heard the young rainbow crow's song. Even though the bird was scared of human beings, it took pity on the starving child. So, it pecked off one of its beautiful, priceless feathers and gave it to the child. The child brought it back to the family that had abandoned him. Pleased, they let him live with them again. Oh, good! All he had to do was pay his weight in bird feather. However, upon hearing of the story, countless people rushed into the forest, one after another, each telling the young rainbow crow of how poor and unfortunate they were. The bird's heart went out for them, and it gave them one shining feather after another until its body was reduced to a sorry state. Without any feathers, the young rainbow crow could no longer fly and find food. Then when winter came, the cold and hunger caused even its beautiful voice to become rough and hoarse. It was as it shivered in the snow that the child from before appeared in front of it. The child told it that he was searching for a beautiful bird with a lovely singing voice in order to repay his debts. The young rainbow crow was overjoyed. "That was me," it croaked. "Please, would you not keep me warm in your chest?" But the child took one glance at the ugly featherless bird and called it a liar. As man, all these stories seem to run similar, where one person sacrifices everything and they end up dying for it. So I think the game is trying to say sacrifice is dumb, and if you do it, you're dumb and you'll die. And one person might feel bad for you, but that's about all you can expect. Cutting down the bird, the child cooked it over a fire and ate it before continuing on with its. This is a great story. Well, kids, here's a story that ends with everybody living happily ever after, and the kids are like, "No, Mom, tell the real story." Oh, well, okay. So they all lived happily ever after, except for the bird had a child, and the child was murdered by a different child. It wasn't just murdered; it was cooked and eaten. Oh my god! And so now the Rainbow Crow's child's mother, the original Rainbow Crow, is going to kill everybody, right? Is that going to be the whole thing here? It was at that time that the Rainbow Crow caught word of beautiful rainbow feathers being sold throughout the village. With worry in its heart, the Rainbow Crow ventured into the forest. However, the only thing that awaited it was the charred bones of its beloved child. The Rainbow Crow could not forgive what the villagers had done to its dear child. In rage and grief, the Rainbow Crow swallowed the gift of fire from the heavens. Its body became wreathed in flames, setting the village on fire. But even after the village turned to ash, the Rainbow Crow did not stop burning, for the gift of fire was eternal and could not be extinguished. To this day, the Rainbow Crow wanders the earth, burning everything in its path as it cries out for its lost child. What a good story. Definitely great for kids. It's a good little nursery rhyme. Holy moly.